They describe you as the new the female Michael Jackson. Have you read that?
I don't know if I've always been powerful, but I certainly have always been confrontational, yes.
Do you like big power? Do you like power?
Who doesn't?
Who admire you and know you're wonderful and great, but they're jealous because they wish they were in your place, wish they were in your shoes. And M is one of them. Madonna. She's not a nice.
Before Madonna became the queen of pop, Michael Jackson was her blueprint. She watched his extraordinary rise and was relentless in the pursuit of her own success. She openly referenced his influence, took his manager, and modeled her next career moves on the phenomenon he had created with Thriller. Michael Jackson was the benchmark, but Madonna had no intention of remaining in his shadow. Then something remarkable happened. Throughout the 1980s, Madonna developed her own model of superstardom, built around constant reinvention, controversy, and an instinctive understanding of the media. The student became the rival became an equal, and eventually, as Michael attempted to reinvent himself for a new decade, the influence began flowing in the opposite direction. It was at precisely this moment that the two finally came together. A musical collaboration was planned. They showcased their relationship publicly, and behind closed doors, they even dated. Michael and Madonna were developing what could have become one of the most significant partnerships in pop music history. But it never happened. Instead, admiration gave way to creative clashes, personal misunderstandings, and increasingly brutal jabs in the press. Their very different ideas about fame, image, sexuality, and what it meant to be a superstar ultimately exposed just how different the king and queen of pop really were. So what actually happened between Michael Jackson and Madonna? How did mutual inspiration become rivalry and resentment? And why, years later, would Madonna admit that she regretted allowing Michael to slip out of her life? Here's the detail. When Dick Clark asked Madonna what she wanted most in life during an appearance on American Bandstand in January 1984, she replied confidently, "To rule the world." It was a remarkably bold statement from a young singer whose career was just beginning with only a handful of modest hits bubbling up the charts. Yet it perfectly encapsulated the ambition that had driven her from the very beginning. Madonna was certainly no overnight success. That determination had been forged through years of instability and struggle. After moving from Michigan to New York in the late 1970s, she worked as a dancer, performed in bands, and fought to carve out a place for herself within the city's fiercely competitive downtown music scene. Her earliest recordings were rooted in dance music, rather than the more critically respected rock and new wave styles that dominated much of the industry at the time. Her debut single, "Everybody," was released in October 1982 and became a club hit, reaching number 3 on Billboard's dance chart. However, it did not immediately establish her as a mainstream star. Burning Up followed with a similar reception, finding an audience on the dance floor while leaving Madonna's long-term commercial prospects far from certain. Despite this, Madonna carried herself as though international superstardom was not merely possible, but inevitable. Her self-titled debut album was released on July 27, 1983. Produced primarily by Reggie Lucas, it featured the singles Everybody, Burning Up, Lucky Star, Borderline, and Holiday. The album was not an instant blockbuster. Instead, its success built gradually, driven first by club audiences before expanding into the mainstream with the growing popularity of Holiday, which became Madonna's first single to reach the American Top 40. At precisely the moment Madonna was making the transition from the dance clubs into mainstream pop, Michael Jackson had already demonstrated what the absolute pinnacle of modern pop stardom could look like. Released in November 1982, Thriller was far more than a successful album. It was rapidly becoming a global cultural phenomenon. Billie Jean and Beat It dominated radio and television, while Jackson's performance of Billie Jean during the Motown 25 television special introduced the moonwalk to a vast national audience. His groundbreaking music videos also helped reshape MTV's programming. elevating the music video from a simple promotional tool into a cinematic form of spectacle and storytelling for mass audiences. For an artist as ambitious and visually minded as Madonna, Michael Jackson represented a natural blueprint for the kind of career she hoped to build. Often described early on as a white girl that sang black music, she even said in interviews that her first album was greatly influenced by Motown artists, especially Michael Jackson, and described her blunt strategic thinking when seeking career guidance. Quote, "I thought, I must have a manager," she recalled. "Who's the most successful person in the music industry, and who's his manager? I want him." The answer was Freddie DeMann, who, alongside Ron Weisner, had managed Michael during the period leading up to the extraordinary success of Thriller. Madonna's label, the Warner-affiliated Sire Records, initially approached DeMann on her behalf. According to Sire founder Seymour Stein, DeMann was unimpressed at first, but Stein insisted that Madonna was destined to become a major star and urged him to give her a chance. Unwilling to compromise, Madonna took matters into her own hands and traveled to Los Angeles to meet him personally. She later recalled that DeMann subsequently came to New York to watch her perform at Studio 54. The prospect was intimidating because Madonna knew the standard against which DeMann was likely to judge her. By this point, Michael Jackson was already one of the most accomplished live performers in popular music, having spent virtually his entire life on stage. Quote, "I was so nervous because Michael Jackson's so incredible live," Madonna later admitted, explaining that she wondered how she could possibly impress a man accustomed to watching a world-class performer like Michael. DeMann nevertheless liked what he saw and agreed to work with her. DeMann's association with Michael gave Madonna more than a respected manager. It connected her to a proven framework for achieving global pop superstardom. His influence became apparent during the making of her second album. Producer Nile Rodgers later recalled playing the finished recordings to DeMann, who responded by putting on Thriller and asking whether Madonna's album could sound more like it. Rodgers pushed back, arguing that Michael had spent most of his life building towards an album of that scale, and that it was unrealistic to expect Madonna to achieve the same immediately. The exchange nevertheless illustrated the extent to which Michael Jackson's unprecedented success had already become the commercial benchmark against which Madonna's own career was being measured. During an interview on the Australian television program Countdown, host Ian Molly Meldrum remarked that the press had begun describing Madonna as the female Michael Jackson, and asked whether she had seen the comparison.
Reading the press coming from America and England and Europe, they describe you as the new the female Michael Jackson. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that.
Well, they have said that.
I've heard some other comparisons, but that's nice. That's flattering.
Not bad, is it?
The exchange lasted only a few seconds, yet it revealed how rapidly perceptions of Madonna were changing. She was no longer viewed merely as an emerging dance artist, but as one of pop music's next major stars. Ironically, it was at precisely this moment that the two would meet for the very first time. It was the summer of 1984, and Michael Jackson was in the middle of the Jacksons' Victory Tour. Far more than just another concert tour, it had become a national event, with an enormous media circus swarming around its festivities. When the tour arrived in the Big Apple, Michael found himself at the center of a very different cultural scene from his familiar showbiz circles, meeting influential figures in New York City's vibrant downtown art scene such as Andy Warhol, Keith Haring, and Jean-Michel Basquiat, alongside fellow performers including Cyndi Lauper, and for the first time, Madonna. Little is known about their meeting. Neither artist ever spoke publicly about what they discussed, and only a handful of photographs of the occurrence have surfaced. Yet the timing could hardly have been more significant. Michael stood at the absolute summit of the music industry, while Madonna was on the verge of the breakthrough that would transform her career forever. That breakthrough arrived just a few months later. Released in October 1984, the title track from Madonna's second album, Like a Virgin, rocketed up the charts, quickly reaching #1 in the United States and topping charts around the world. Almost overnight, she was transformed from a fledgling newcomer into an international phenomenon. Yet the commercial success of her sexually provocative track had not garnered her acceptance from the music establishment. This became painfully apparent when plans were assembled for We Are the World, the American music industry's response to the famine in Ethiopia. Conceived by Harry Belafonte and organized by Lionel Richie's manager, Ken Cragen, the project brought together many of the most respected and commercially successful performers in American music. Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie wrote the song, while Quincy Jones oversaw its production. The recording was deliberately scheduled for the night of January 28, 1985, immediately after the American Music Awards, when many of the industry's biggest stars would already be gathered in Los Angeles. Mere hours after the showbiz ceremony, Michael was standing in the recording studio alongside the likes of Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, Tina Turner, Billy Joel, Paul Simon, Bette Midler, and Cyndi Lauper. It was far more than a charity recording. It was a gathering of entertainment's biggest stars and the recognized musical establishment. Madonna was also in Los Angeles for the American Music Awards, but she was not invited to take part, even though she was now one of music's most commercially successful and talked about performers. Accounts differ over precisely how this decision was made. Ken Cragen's associate, Harriet Sternberg, later recalled arguing that Madonna should be included because her growing popularity would bring a younger audience to the project. Quote, "I wanted Madonna," Sternberg remembered, "but Ken wanted Cyndi." The organizers appear to have viewed Madonna and Cyndi Lauper as competing for a single place representing the new generation of female pop stars. At that particular moment, choosing Lauper was a defensible decision. Her debut album, She's So Unusual, had produced major hits including Girls Just Want to Have Fun and Time After Time, and she had already received considerably more critical acclaim and industry recognition than Madonna. There was a widespread belief that Madonna's success owed more to image, controversy, and marketing than to exceptional musicianship or vocal ability. Nile Rodgers, who had produced Like a Virgin, later claimed that some of those involved simply, quote, "didn't think she could sing." Ken Cragen later explained that the limited solo parts required voices that listeners could identify immediately. Asked why the choice had apparently come down to Lauper or Madonna, he replied, quote, "We had only half a line to sing. You have to have an identifiable voice," concluding that Cyndi possessed that quality. According to Rodgers, the rejection broke her heart.
So Madonna wasn't invited to sing on the recording of We Are the World. And that was sort of a bit of a slap in the face because everybody was in Los Angeles for the American Music Awards. And I know, no matter what she says, we all went to dinner together. And I know she felt bad because I know Quincy and I know Michael, so I'm going over to the recording just to hang out. And I said to Madonna, I said, okay, we're headed over to A&M. And I could feel her feeling bad about that.
As the song's co-writer and its most prominent participant, Michael Jackson stood at the center of the very event from which Madonna had been excluded. The episode highlighted the difference between commercial success and institutional legitimacy. Madonna had become one of the biggest stars in popular music, but she had not yet earned the same level of respect that an artist like Michael commanded. We Are the World was released in March 1985 and spent 4 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Yet in a twist of irony, it was eventually displaced by Madonna's ballad Crazy for You, which reached the top of the chart in May. The song showcased a more restrained and emotionally vulnerable side of Madonna, challenging the perception that she relied solely on image and controversy, while becoming her second American #1. However, her resentment over the rejection appears to have lingered until Live Aid on the 13th of July, 1985. Madonna accepted an invitation to the Philadelphia concert, appearing before one of the largest television audiences in history and performing a medley of her hits. Her participation demonstrated that she was fully willing to support the wider famine relief campaign. However, she did not return for the all-star finale of We Are the World. According to one account, Madonna's attitude was essentially, "I wasn't good enough to sing on the record. Well, I'm not singing the finale.
I wasn't good enough to sing on the record. Well, I'm not singing the finale. And so she comes out. She does the thing with the Thompson Twins with us. She does her set. We Are the World. Bang, she's gone.
From 1985 onwards, Michael Jackson and Madonna's careers began to diverge. Having conquered popular music with Thriller, Michael largely withdrew from public view. His attention shifted towards recording his next studio album and filming Francis Ford Coppola's ambitious 3D Disney short film, Captain EO. That relative absence only heightened the sense of mystery surrounding him. Madonna, by contrast, understood that the rapidly expanding MTV generation rewarded constant visibility. Therefore, she remained almost permanently in the public eye through an uninterrupted stream of hit singles, music videos, magazine covers, television appearances, and movie releases. Following the success of the title track from Like a Virgin, along with the subsequent hits Material Girl, Crazy for You, Angel, and Into the Groove, Madonna embarked on her first headlining concert series, the Virgin Tour, in the spring of 1985. The response was strikingly similar to the scenes that had followed Michael Jackson during the Thriller era and the Jacksons' Victory Tour only months earlier. Like Michael, Madonna cultivated a highly distinctive visual identity through her personal style. Newspapers increasingly reported on the growing phenomenon of the Madonna wannabe, as fans eagerly copied their idol. Macy's department store in New York opened a dedicated Madonna department, allowing fans to purchase clothing and accessories inspired by her image, just as Michael's admirers adopted his red leather jackets, loafers, white socks, and single sequined glove. Madonna's followers embraced lace gloves, layered crucifixes, oversized bows, stacks of bangles, fingerless gloves, and teased blonde hair. Like Michael Jackson before her, Madonna had become far more than a successful recording artist. She had evolved into a cultural phenomenon. Madonna herself further strengthened the comparison with Michael. During performances of Like a Virgin, she incorporated sections of Michael Jackson's Billie Jean into the arrangement and even imitated some of the Jackson signature moves, acknowledging one of the defining records of the decade while subtly aligning herself with the artist who had become the benchmark for modern pop superstardom. Michael Jackson had demonstrated the extraordinary potential of MTV during the Thriller era. With Billie Jean, Beat It, and above all, the groundbreaking short film for Thriller, he proved that a music video could become a cultural event in its own right. Music could now be promoted through choreography, fashion, cinematic storytelling, and meticulously crafted visual spectacle. If Michael helped force that door open, Madonna was among the artists who walked through it most decisively. Both realized that in the MTV era, an artist's visual identity could become every bit as recognizable and commercially valuable as their music. However, Madonna's greatest strength was never that she could outsing or outdance Michael Jackson. Michael possessed a vocal identity, physical precision, and natural performance ability that could not be replicated. Where Madonna differed was in her relentless commitment to reinvention. Unlike Michael, who largely cultivated a single iconic image, she continually transformed herself through fashion, makeup, styling, and performance, presenting audiences with a succession of distinct characters and personas. Music videos became the perfect vehicle for this constant evolution, embracing the medium not simply as a promotional tool, but as the central canvas upon which she could repeatedly reimagine herself, and in turn, audiences could continually rediscover her. During the promotion of 1986's True Blue, she appeared vulnerable and restrained in Live to Tell, confronted teenage pregnancy and parental authority in Papa Don't Preach, portrayed a provocative peep show performer who controlled the men watching her in Open Your Heart, and adopted a romantic Latin-inspired persona in La Isla Bonita. Each release gave MTV a new Madonna to broadcast and audiences a fresh image to discuss, imitate, or condemn. Her early lace gloves, crucifixes, and layered accessories gave way to the cropped platinum hair and classical profile of the True Blue album cover. Like Michael, Madonna frequently drew upon the imagery of old Hollywood to elevate and legitimize her visual work. Her Material Girl video famously recreated Marilyn Monroe's performance of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, placing Madonna inside one of cinema's most recognizable images while subtly reversing its meaning. The diamonds and pink satin became part of a carefully staged performance, while the surrounding narrative suggested that the character Madonna portrayed was far less materialistic than her public reputation implied. By borrowing Monroe's iconography, Madonna did not simply pay tribute to a screen legend. She placed herself within an established tradition of cinematic glamour before reshaping it for the MTV generation. Michael conducted a comparable dialogue with Hollywood history. Beat It borrowed heavily from the visual language of West Side Story, while Thriller drew upon the imagery of 1950s B-movie horror films. Both artists recognized that audiences already carried these cinematic references in their cultural memory. By reworking them within contemporary music videos, they could appear simultaneously nostalgic and modern. Their videos were not merely promoting pop songs. They were positioning Michael and Madonna as heirs to Hollywood's most enduring screen icons. When Michael Jackson finally returned to the music scene with Bad in August 1987, he was entering a pop landscape that had changed considerably. Although he remained the world's biggest male pop star, Madonna had spent the previous 3 years establishing herself as his closest commercial rival by embracing a fundamentally different approach to fame. Throughout the 1980s, Michael carefully cultivated an image that appealed across generations and social groups. His success depended upon being almost universally embraced. His landmark partnership with Pepsi in 1984 was one of the most lucrative celebrity endorsement deals ever signed and reinforced his reputation as an artist whose image was trustworthy, family-friendly, and commercially safe. Madonna would also go on to sign a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal with Pepsi in 1989 to coincide with the release of her new album, Like a Prayer. Initially, the company viewed her as another global superstar capable of appealing to an enormous mainstream audience. However, shortly after Pepsi premiered its commercial, Madonna released the accompanying music video for the album's title track. Featuring burning crosses, religious iconography, interracial romance, and the depiction of a saint brought to life, the video provoked immediate criticism from religious organizations and conservative groups around the world. Faced with mounting controversy, Pepsi canceled the campaign and terminated its association with Madonna almost as soon as it had begun. Ironically, the intense media coverage surrounding the controversy only amplified public interest, helping propel both the single and album to even greater commercial heights. Perhaps no episode better illustrated the philosophical difference between Madonna and Michael Jackson. Michael generally sought to unite audiences by creating spectacles that families, broadcasters, and multinational corporations could enthusiastically embrace. Madonna, by contrast, was often willing to divide opinion if doing so kept her at the center of popular culture. Both strategies proved extraordinarily successful, but they reflected fundamentally different understandings of modern superstardom. Michael protected his mystique by carefully controlling his image, whereas Madonna accepted that criticism and controversy could themselves become essential components of her artistic identity. Nevertheless, Michael remained the larger commercial force. Reported earnings consistently placed him well ahead of Madonna, although the gap between them was steadily narrowing. Madonna had spent years mastering the machinery that Michael's success had helped accelerate. MTV no longer relied solely on the occasional Michael Jackson premiere to demonstrate the power of visual pop. Madonna supplied the channel with what seemed like a constant stream of new material. Understanding that every haircut costume controversy and reinvention could become another chapter in an ongoing public narrative, Madonna demonstrated that a female artist could command albums, concert tours, fashion, film, controversy, and with a degree of creative control previously associated primarily with male rock stars. She had not become another Michael Jackson. Instead, she constructed an alternative model of pop superstardom that was powerful enough to stand alongside his. Despite her extraordinary commercial success, Madonna was still not fully embraced by the wider music establishment and never enjoyed the consistent critical recognition or award success that Michael Jackson had achieved. However, that seemed to change when both Billboard and MTV named Madonna Artist of the Decade in 1989, recognizing both her remarkable commercial achievements and the central role she had played in shaping MTV throughout the 1980s.
Thank you.
The recognition inevitably ruffled a few feathers. After all, it had been Michael who had helped transform MTV into a global cultural force in the first place. Michael's groundbreaking videos demonstrated that music television could become viable entertainment, while their enormous popularity accelerated MTV's rise into one of the most influential media outlets in the world. From Michael's perspective, few artists had done more to shape either the decade or MTV itself. Michael believed his own contribution to both MTV and popular music had been overlooked, and he subsequently became determined to rectify its lasting impact on his legacy. Over the following months, Michael became linked to a series of remarkably similar honors. His record company publicly promoted him as the Artist of the Decade, presenting him with the award during a carefully orchestrated press event. Then, during a White House visit in April 1990, President George H.W. Bush also referred to Michael as the Artist of the Decade in recognition of both his artistic achievements and humanitarian work.
Welcome, Michael Jackson here, who's been named Artist of the Decade, and he has a tremendous following.
Around the same period, Michael was also developing a widely publicized greatest hits compilation entitled Decade to further the association, although the project was ultimately shelved before its release. MTV attempted to make amends by presenting Michael with the Video Vanguard of the Decade Award, before permanently renaming its highest lifetime achievement honor, the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award.
I'm thrilled to present you, the biggest selling recording artist of all time, with the award for MTV's Video Vanguard of the Decade. We can't wait to see what you have plans for us in the 90s. Congratulations.
Officially, the decision recognized Michael's unparalleled contribution to the art of the music video, rather than serving as retribution for Madonna's earlier recognition. Nevertheless, coming so soon afterwards, the timing inevitably fueled speculation that the two superstars were competing not only for chart success, but also for ownership of the Artist of the Decade title. Madonna appeared amused and seemed willing to play along with the growing narrative. During a promotional appearance for MTV's 10th anniversary television special, on which Michael also performed, she jokingly remarked,
I never asked you to name an award after me, did I? Michael who?
The quip playfully leaned into the rumors of a rivalry that had begun to surround the two pop icons. Following the conclusion of the Bad World Tour in early 1989, Michael once again withdrew from the spotlight, spending much of the following 2 years recording what would eventually become his next musical era. All the while, Madonna continued to find extraordinary commercial success with the Like a Prayer album, the groundbreaking Blonde Ambition World Tour, and the worldwide phenomenon of the single Vogue, becoming one of the defining songs of the decade. A Forbes Entertainment ranking estimated Madonna's earnings during 1990 to 91 at approximately $63 million, placing her fourth among the world's highest-paid entertainers, while Michael Jackson reportedly earned around $60 million, placing him fifth. If accurate, it represented the first occasion that Madonna had ranked above Michael. The difference was relatively small, but symbolically, it attracted considerable attention, inevitably intensifying media speculation that the two had become direct competitors, with the entertainment press increasingly portraying Madonna and Michael as opposing claimants to the title of the world's biggest pop star. It was precisely at this point that a musical collaboration was proposed. The detail is dedicated to uncovering the real stories behind Michael Jackson's life and career. If you enjoy these deep dives, consider subscribing